gentlemen, thank you so much for your time. Congratulations on the world premiere of your film here at the Santa Barbara International Film Festival. Dandelions, tell me, how does it feel to be out here?
Oh man, this, Santa Barbara is such a prestigious film festival. We're just grateful to be here, and it's been a long journey to get here. It's been 7 years to complete the film, so we're just excited to share it with an audience.
Yeah, now, it's a very, very personal film. And I get it, you're a filmmaker, so the first thing you want to do in any situation is probably grab a camera. Why was this, something that you wanted to pursue to put out to the public?
So after I got the message on Facebook from these two young teenagers that, they contacted me and said, hey, we know that you don't know us, but we know you, and our dad is your biological father. This was, I thought it was a scam, and I was in shock, basically. So it took me 8 years to kind of integrate it, understand it, and Ben and I were 13 years apart, and so we didn't have, I was basically scared to bring this into the family and go like, hey, I found this out. And so by the time he turned 20, I felt like, okay, this is a good time for me to pursue what is the truth, why do we have this family secret, and to also tell Ben about it, and that's how the film starts.
And Ben, we see your reaction in the beginning of the film. Well, tell us about that moment where he wants your help, where he's looking for some guidance and to pursue this and to find out, the truth, basically.
How I felt at that moment, man, it was like time was moving really just like, 3 or 4 times as slow, just like though my world was falling apart. Not in a bad way, just a lot of confusion, doubt. I don't know. I thought we were going to go on a trip somewhere, just bro it out, go to Australia, and then I'm greeted by cameras when I walk in the door, which, it's like you're accosted by people filming you. And I'm trying to piece it all together, and I can tell something serious going on, and then he sits me down and tells me, just drops this bomb on me. And I don't know. It was kind of like a blackout moment, You're just trying to piece it all together and just be a good brother and listen. It was intense. It was definitely not what I was expecting to hear.
I mean, it is an intense situation because you have so many people involved. Just you guys trying to talk to your mom on the phone through the film, it just seemed very difficult. I guess that leads to my next question is, going through this journey and now with cameras in front of you, even if something you're familiar with, does that change your emotions and how you emote them? Do you maybe hide them a little bit more, or do you maybe highlight them a little bit more in order to kind of tell the story?
Yeah, so one of the biggest hurdles of the film for me was being the filmmaker and also the subject on camera, because I'm used to being behind camera. I'm not comfortable in front of it. And so in terms of making the film, I was actually surprised because after a few days of filming, that filmmaking part kind of took a back seat and just started to happen automatically. And then I was just there for kind of this authentic experience, and everything that is happening, it's my life. And so at the end of the day, nothing felt heightened or nothing felt artificial. I was just kind of on this journey, because once it started, it felt like you couldn't put the genie back in the bottle. We're like, okay, we're doing this, we're gonna go to Russia, we're gonna figure out what the secret is all about. So yeah, for me it was an authentic experience and highly emotional throughout. So.
Now, one of the scenes that really impressed me was the interview with your biological dad that you did not do. You're actually sitting next to, I forgot her name, I apologize.
Yeah,
Flavia.
Yeah.
And you're experiencing it almost from a different perspective. Tell me about that moment, because I remember like watching it, and then when we got there and I saw what was happening, I almost kind of like sat up a little bit like, oh, okay, what's happening here?
Yeah, it's actually interesting because in the moment, when we're there, and after I met my biological dad, there's a lot of like layers to peel back. Like, what is our relationship? What can I ask you? What can I not ask you? And our crew, which consisted of me, Ben, my girlfriend Flavia, and then Mitch and Mara, camera and sound, we were all kind of on the journey together. So whatever I was learning, everybody there was learning it at the same time. So there were questions that would constantly arise. So it wasn't just my curiosity that we were dealing with Ben's, with Flavia's. And so that moment with Flavia actually leading more of the interview was because she was so genuinely curious, you know? And it allowed me to kind of like just experience the moment, and her questions were so great and insightful, and I was just able to, you know, listen to my dad there and kind of process what was happening. And for me, that's a really hard moment in the film because he has a big realization about, you know, what fatherhood is and how we show up as fathers. So yeah, it was a really emotional moment in the film.
Yeah, real genuine reactions, and I thought about it too. Like, yeah, I think my fiance now, she would have way better questions because of how protective she is of me than I would. So like, I think I would have done something very, very similar. Now, looking at the whole project, how has it been for you having to relive it through editing, through screenings, through showing it again? I know at the end you talk about showing it to your parent, to your mom, and how has that been to having to redo it over and over again? Is it a little bit more healing? Like, how do you feel about it?
Yeah. So what's amazing about this film is that it took us 7 years to complete it. We shot over 350 hours worth of footage that we cut down into an hour-and-a-half film. So during those 7 years in that editing process, you know, there are moments where you're like working in the room with the editor and just crying and being like, can you put that shot there, you know? And so it's an intense experience to constantly relive that, but it actually allowed me to process it over the time. And there was a moment where, you know, years and years into editing, around 5 years, Ben actually called me and said, hey, you know what, like, you haven't actually showed our parents the film yet, and you've been processing it, and you know what it's all about, but it's, you know, do you think it's time to show our parents? And I was like, you know, yeah, you're totally right. So I booked a ticket, flew home, asked my parents to see it, and I, you know, put it on TV for them and said, I'm peacing out. I'm gonna go nervously walk outside the house. And they watched it, and I came back an hour and a half later, and I could just see, like, they'd had such an emotional response to it. They had been crying, and I could just see this weight kind of lifted off, and they had really just understood the journey that I had gone on, that Ben had gone on with me, and everything kind of fell into place in that moment. And I really saw it as, for me, I was like, wow, this isn't just cinema as storytelling. This is really cinema as a healing, like a medicine almost. So it really healed those kind of fears in my family and really brought us closer together and created this transparency that to this day we still really have in the family, and the closeness that's there that came afterwards is really awesome.
I think the moment in the final confrontation where I was like, oh, it's going to be okay, it's like, you guys want to go swimming? You guys want sandwiches? Let's make sandwiches. Because I can empathize with that. I mean, I've had heavy conversations with my parents that end with a weird joke where we all kind of go back to just kind of life, and while everyone's going to take time to heal and process, just like we saw, because then afterwards, I just don't want to give too much away. Yeah. We saw responses. We saw a little bit a text message that really struck me. I was like, oh, okay, that's really, really nice. And so I think that overall, I think it's such a universal story at the end, because you know, regardless of, we all have something going on with our families, I think. Yeah. And the kind of what you guys wanted to make sure to bring out is like, yeah, talk about it, because at the end you're going to be better for it. Did I get it right? Wrong?
Yeah, I think that's exactly right. I think the family, first of all, everything in family, like, there's a lot of gray areas. It's not so like black and white, and so everybody's perspectives can be different and valid all at the same time. And the only way to really understand each other is to have those transparent conversations. So if that feels right to somebody, then that's what we hope the film does, is inspires them to, you know, take that step to really talk to their families, have those transparent conversations, because at the end of the day, family is worth it.
What has been your takeaway from working on this project for so long and being able to relive it again and again?
Man, after you asked me how I felt when he first told me, I think a little bit is still in the movie, but there's probably 10 minutes of let's not do this that we cut out, understandably. But, you know, I just had to trust in Basil and know that for some reason his gut was telling him that this is how this should be done. And now seeing the final product and getting the help in the audio and just seeing people's reaction to it at test screenings, and also my own reaction. I mean, when I finally watched the feature length, when it was fully edited, I left the room and wasn't expecting it at all, but just suddenly started bawling privately. And I didn't know, I guess I had all of that pent up. But I'm just really proud and fulfilled to be a part of it. I think it could perhaps help people, you know, question what family means and where they stand with their family and what they need to perhaps address or uncover. And yeah, I mean, I look back, it was one of the hardest things I've ever been a part of and ever done. Conflicting, joyous, exciting, and scary all at the same time. But I mean, I have no regrets. I'm just really proud of Basil and everybody else, the editors, Eric and Al, seeing it through to the end. And then, yeah, just happy to be along for the ride, support my brother. And little did I know, you know, contribute to furthering our relationship and our family and going deeper with our relationships with our parents. And yes, I definitely feel like there's more openness, there's more understanding of each other's perspectives, and perhaps this thing that we weren't aware of weighing on our parents or mothers now lifted. So, you know, I have no regrets.
That, and also you help each other take weight off of each other's shoulders, because there's no longer that secret. There's no longer, you know, that not telling him or that doubt also. You don't no longer have that doubt. So you guys have a lot of weight lifted off your shoulders to focus on more positive things. Gentlemen, thank you so much for your time. Wonderful film. Thank you for letting us in your lives a bit to kind of have us reflect on our own, and that way, you know, become better families for it.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having us.